As always, feel free to visit our virtual agent and NLU community. There you'll find the latest content and the latest questions and answers. Feel free to go in there. If you have questions, post questions. If you have answers, post answers. Thank you, everyone, for those of you who have visited. Thank you for visiting our forum, and hopefully it continues to be a source of knowledge and inspiration. All our academies are recorded, and it will be posted on YouTube within the week. And so if you like what you're seeing, and if you're watching via YouTube, please click this, please like or subscribe to the channel, and that way you'll get notified of all the latest videos that we upload. You can also see view past recordings on YouTube as well. New name, same awesome academy. So we announced this last time, but I'm going to re-announce it here. The Virtual Agent Academy is going to be rebranded to the Conversational Interfaces Academy. That name is going to start in January 2023. We're going to talk about agent chat and sidebar. We're not going to talk about AWA. We're actually going to move that to a separate academy. I should have changed that in the slide. But we're going to talk about agent chat and sidebar sessions along with Virtual Agent and NLU under one academy name. So we're going to basically do some alternation, right? So first Tuesday we'll talk about Virtual Agent, for example, and then the alternating Tuesday we'll talk about agent chat or sidebar and back and forth, etc. No scheduling or registration changes required on your part. We will automatically register you to that new academy. So tell your colleagues, spread the word. So today we're going to talk about low-code API integrations with Virtual Agent. In other words, how can you use all the public APIs out there on the internet to plug that into your Virtual Agent and to create workflows that you and your organization may be interested in. With me today is Chris Steinke. He's a Senior Advisory Solutions Architect, and he's going to be doing the demo or the exercise today. Here's our brief agenda. So some overview and FYI. So overview. So as of the Quebec release, you can call public APIs as part of your virtual agent conversation via the Integration Hub integration in Virtual Agent Designer. So that's actually a Quebec release feature where you can integrate any action or flow from Integration Hub directly into your virtual agent. Whether you want to integrate online information or online processes into your ServiceNow workflows, you can do that low code. So some examples you see on the right here, weather API, that's actually a demo that we actually saw last year with Travis Rogers. So if you want to look at that, how to insert more flow into your virtual agent with Integration Hub, I believe that's what the Academy was called. So there's that option. Music Brains has a public API, Twitter has an API. I know some shipping companies do, like UPS and FedEx, they have public APIs. So long as you have an API key or you have the API available, you can insert that into your virtual agent flows. Some callouts. So not only, of course, you'll need a pro or enterprise license for virtual agent, you'll also need an Integration Hub license. So I believe there are varying levels to that. Starter is all you need. I know it goes up to professional, I think, for Integration Hub as well, or beyond, but you at least need some Integration Hub license. It does consume Integration Hub transactions, and I do know there is a per action cost. I think some dollar amount per 1,000 transactions or per 5,000 transactions. Check with your AE on that. So just be sure to actively track perhaps rate limit usage, just to avoid surprise costs. If your virtual agent is very popular, which I'm sure it is, just want to make sure that you're not going to overly consume more than you'd like. And then finally, just to call out, when you're using and consuming a public API, data is being sent to and from a third party. So obviously, if you don't want your users to send private information to an API, don't build it, right? Or just be aware of the type of information that users may send to that API for processing, just to be just for full awareness there. Okay. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Chris for the exercise, and these are like the brief steps we're going to go over: how to get an API online, right? Internet, if the internet, how to create a REST action spoke via Flow Designer, and how to use that action spoke in a virtual agent public node. So with that, Chris, I'll hand it over to you.
All right, fantastic. Thanks, Victor. Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Steinke, and I am one of the specialist solution consultants in the organization, which means that I focus in on just a particular area. And the area that I focus in on is what we call our platform intelligence or now intelligence product. And intelligence to us means in a lot of cases, all this data, all this information that you have in your system, and how do we get benefit? How do we get some value from it? I support our prospects, our customers, our account teams when they want to have these next level discussions. Today, we're going to be talking about creating an API call from a bot. This might be into another chatbot. It might be a publicly available API. This is just sort of a high level example of how to integrate virtual agent and using Flow Designer and surface that information in your conversations. Now, in order to find an example, Victor mentioned weather.com. I just Googled joke APIs. There's a number of these joke APIs that are out there and available. I'm not familiar with this one. This isn't an endorsement of this particular site over any other. It was just a very easy and open framework which I could then integrate with. So here, if we scroll down, we can just see some basic information about the joke API capabilities, how you would format the joke, different items like things like flags, and then instructions on getting started. Now, you might be able to code this in, say, a REST API or in a business rule, but I cannot. I really am not a good JavaScript coder. Get a joke API. I'm not a good coder. I can copy JavaScript. I can't really create it myself. So the opportunity to use the Flow Designer and Integration Hub is the only reason that I am capable of doing this. We've got our action here, and that's what we are going to use to call the API and to deliver the information to the virtual agent. When you click the plus button next to inputs, it opens up a variety of different actions that you can perform. Most of these are pre-configured actions. The one that I want to call is a REST integration. You can see there's a variety of setup steps, and then we'll walk through setting those up. Now, you can use a connection alias, like if you have a key or you need to pass it different credentials, you can do that in a connection alias record. In this case, there's no authorization needed for this API, so I don't have to do that, which makes it a little bit easier. I can just define it in line. Now, there are a few different base URLs that they offer for this. I'm using the standard joke URL, and then I've added the any safe comment to it. So that puts it in safe mode so that we make sure that the jokes are safe for work. There's additional filtering options that you can look if you want to investigate the API, again, to make it more friendly and not offensive. So it's going to build the request manually. I'll use the get request. For headers and parameters, for this, I just need a single parameter. I'm just going to put in format and XML. Basically what this does, and feel free to jump in because again, I'm not the expert in this integration, but it takes all these different elements that I'm putting together and it assembles them into a URL, which it sort of pushes to the API address, and then it's going to return some values to us. Now, one thing I noticed when developing it, it doesn't like that base URL. It doesn't like this sort of safe mode tag that I've been added on, but it will go ahead and test regardless. So I can run a test. It's now going to process the action. And by clicking on it, I have all my information. And this step is really important. We're going to need to grab some of the text from this in order to process it. So here we can see this is the information that we sent over. And then this is the response body. So it automatically formats this and sends it back to us. And then we're going to need to sort of figure out how to extract both the setup and the delivery. Again, if you know scripting, you could probably do this. I don't, so I can use a action here. And there's this really great action called a JSON parser. And basically, this is going to parse that JSON that I had shared earlier. It's going to make it really easy for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my response body. As you're building out these different steps, it's going to enter in this whole data model for it. And variables or other things that you have created are going to end up being data pills over here and accessible. So I want my response body to be my source data for JSON parsing. I'm then going to paste in that data as an example, and then I will generate the target. And this is going to map out that entire JSON structure for me, and I can then use it in the data pills rather than having to use it or code it in or create new variables. It's a really nice, easy, simple step. The last thing that we're going to need to do is make this output happen, right? We want the output to be provided back to the virtual agent conversation. And I'll create that output. I'll call the first one joke setup. Call it joke setup. And I'll create another one and we'll call it joke punchline. And I'll save it. And now we'll run it through the test. And again, when you're running it through the test, it's effectively doing the transaction, but it formats it all into this nice little summary so that you can extract it and see more easily what's going on. So we can see here that it pushed out the body. It got my information back here. It did get the joke in. And then down here, it goes into the different payload, the configuration, the parsing of it, and then the root information here. If you have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat. Victor will be paying attention to those as well. We'll answer those as we go. If you have any suggestions, I'm more than happy to hear them. As I said, I am not an expert at this. So I've been learning as I've been going. It's been really encouraging though. It's nice the error messages that you get out of this system. It's very easy to sort of track down and try to debug the configuration of it when you have all these different fields, when you have these data pills, when you have this information. So now I've copied those data pills. So we parsed that value. So I have my setup and my delivery, the sort of the joke and then the punchline. And now I've put those over into my action outputs. I'll save my record again. And this time when I test, we should see the correct output. Okay, so for some reason, I still don't have outputs in my punchline. I'm wondering why that is. So if you look down here, status root, I think if I go back here, I need to double check. Cool. I think we're all good here. I'll go ahead and publish it now. And we're good to go. So now that I have my API, I can go over to my virtual agent conversation and I can start to build that out. Building it's actually really easy. There is already an option to pull in a API. So I'll just go to my virtual agent designer. Maybe I'll go to virtual agent first because now there's lots of designers in here. And now you have a couple different options for how you want to implement this. You could do it as small talk. You could do it as its own independent topic. You could do it as a setup topic. There's a variety of different ways you can do it. What I found, and this is just sort of strange, people expect these bots to tell them jokes sometimes. Even though when we pick the use cases we're trying to solve for, organizations are picking the use cases that bring the most value and benefit and are the most have the most to them. But oftentimes customers or your customers will come to the virtual agent and they'll say, "Hi, how are you doing?" Or they'll say, "Tell me, Joe." And if it doesn't respond, they then can get frustrated. So something like this, where it makes it a little more human, it may not be a direct business value. You don't have a specific requirement. I don't know how we would define it, but something like this is just a small little thing that you can do that's going to humanize the bot, that's going to increase your adoption, that just in general is going to make people much how can I say, much more happy and much more excited for your features and your functions. Whoops. All right, so we've got my get joke API. You can see there are the outputs that are going to come out. Next up, I need the virtual agent to actually do the joke, right? So we need the virtual agent to take the data now that we're getting from our API and put it into a conversation. So I'll pick a bot response and I'll just call it joke setup. And I'm not coding something in there. I have it as my joke setup that I got from the previous API. Next up, I'm going to do a pause. And the pause is just programmatically, it pauses the conversation for a second. The reason for this is just for a variety of reasons, but in this case, the beauty of jokes and the essence of comedy is timing. So if we have them jump on top of each other with our joke and our punchline, it's not going to be a great joke. So we'll go ahead now and I'll put in my punchline. And again, I'm just going to select a data pill rather than having to do it myself. And we can just have it end. So I'll now save it. And fingers crossed. I'm going to take off the topic discovery because we just want to hit this topic directly. Now, why does it do that? So it's showing us this information because this is the Flow Designer flow. And when it's exiting something in the Flow Designer flow, it's going to show us that greater detail. It looked like for some reason it was not liking it, but I'm wondering if it's just this any safe mode was something that I had put in afterwards. You can also do jokes like jokes programming, and it'll give you programming jokes. There's different category of jokes that are available, and then they have different endpoints as well. So now that I've fixed that base URL, it'll probably let me save here. I can test it again. All right. This is interesting, and I don't know if this is just a function of the system, but I think in some cases they reverse their punchline and their jokes, so you get that sort of a action. Now that I've fixed this, I'll go ahead and publish it. All right, so that's published. I'll come back here and I'll just point it at the other one. Save, and now when I test, okay. I did have this happen a couple times during testing. It would have sort of inconsistent responses. I'm not sure why, but yeah, it did for some reason. But I'll go ahead and I'll publish this now. The last thing you're going to want to do is add it to an NLU intent. And you can either, like, you could make this as a subtopic and you could just have it show up. You could create it with its own NLU intent. You have some different options for how you want to do that. In this case, I wanted to create it with its own NLU intent so that someone could ask, make a joke from the service portal and it would work as expected. So here I've got my flow. It's been published. I've got that. Next up, I just need to go ahead and test it via the service portal. Now, this is a demo hub instance. That's something that we pre-configure for solution consulting demo purposes. So it can kind of be a little busy sometimes. There's HR on here and there's a number of different features and functions, but let's just see now. Hopefully it'll get that. There we go. Yes, that is a little strange. I've got my delivery here. Here's my punchline. And then if I look at the outputs from this, oh, it should be joke punchline. Maybe that's the problem.
Nice catch, Dirk. Thank you.
Let's see if I do inputs. Joke punchline. Oh, I see what it was. I had switched the API, I think that had done it as well. Thank you, Dirk. Much obliged. If I do my setup here, this should still be joke setup. We should be all good. All right. And now let's try again here. Second here. Right. Just need to start a new one. Strange. So for some reason, I'm still not getting my output. I mean, that might be something that I had done or had switched from the.
Cornelia says, I think you need to publish
Oh, is that at the flow or the topic?
the topic.
I always seem to forget to do that. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I forgot to do that in my last academy. That's, yeah, it happens.
Right. Let's see here. All right. This is the part where I go to a recorded video that has it actually working.
Well, thank you, Chris, for showing. I think, you can definitely check out the YouTube video I shared in the chat. That shows just another example of using iHub for API. I'm just going to go through the questions super quick. I know we're short on time here. What kind of additional content type we can add to the virtual agent conversation to increase engagement except text? There's a variety of response types you can use, such as images, links, even HTML as well. And it's all about like what your users are looking for HR. And then rather than hiding the topics, well, I use the word hide loosely, hiding the topics behind you trying to having to type something in to get a response, you can always pin topics to your greeting via promoted topics. So that way people can see those topics available, right up front in the greetings, and then you just click it and get a very rich response either through an API or through, images and other types of media. Video is another great example. Another anonymous asked, when is the Virtual Agent Academy on ChatGPT? Good question. Funny story. We were going to do this academy on using ChatGPT as an example, but ChatGPT, number one, it's still a beta/research project. It could be turned off at any time. These other APIs have been around a lot longer, right? So, your mileage may vary, but you can certainly apply this methodology to a public API such as ChatGPT. Just be aware of, any privacy concerns or data concerns you have when you send information back and forth to ChatGPT. And then, yeah, there were some other suggestions. Do you know if we can do multiple APIs and multiple spokes in a single topic? Yes, you can, League. You could probably pull that action spoke into a topic as many times as possible, right, for multiple times. So yes, definitely possible, definitely different APIs can be used in a single conversation. Cool. So I think those are all the questions. Again, thank you all for your participation. Thank you all for your feedback. We will put this video on YouTube, and then so in the following Tuesday, we will not have an academy because it's the holiday, December 20, whatever it is. But we will see you again next year in January 2023. I believe January 10th is the first Tuesday after New Year. Well, that isn't on New Year's. So we will see you. So everyone have a great holidays and a great New Year. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Victor.